Wailing in Wangsa Maju. Part 1. The flat on the 13th floor in the heart of Kuala Lumpur, amidst the constant buzz of traffic and flashing city lights, stood a forgotten block of flats in Wangsa Maju. While the surrounding buildings evolved into modern apartments and commercial hubs, Block E remained unchanged, tall, gray, and peeling. It was the kind of place most people avoided unless they had no other choice. The walls were stained with years of rain, the metal gates rusted, and the corridors always smelled faintly of damp newspapers and old incense. But the most unsettling thing wasn't what you could see. It was what you heard, a faint, eerie wailing. Not every night, but enough to become legend. The cry came around 2 a.m., always from the 13th floor. Except, and this is what made the legend so disturbing, Block E officially had no 13th floor. Like many old Asian buildings, it skipped the number due to superstition. The elevators jumped from 12 to 14, but everyone who lived there knew the truth. There was a sealed level, a floor hidden behind welded doors and bricked-off stairwells. They called it Tangkisan Tingkat 13, the Wailing Floor. Part 2, Ainul and the Roommates. 1996, 3 university students moved into Block E. The rent was dirt cheap, the flat was spacious enough, and it was only a few stops from their campus. For Ainul, a second-year sociology major, it was the perfect temporary arrangement. Her roommates Farah and Marina were childhood friends and had known each other since primary school. The trio clicked easily, though Ainul noticed early on that Marina never quite looked comfortable in the flat. "It's just temporary," Marina said one night, unpacking her books. "My mom said never to live in old buildings with sealed floors. They attract spirits who've lost their way." Farah rolled her eyes. "Please, your mom also said don't cut your nails at night, or your fingers will fall off." They all laughed, but Ainul couldn't help but feel a cold draft sweep across the room, despite the windows being shut. Their unit was on the 12th floor, right beneath the non-existent 13th. At night, the pipes would creak. Sometimes, footsteps echoed from the ceiling. At first, they assumed someone lived on the 14th floor, but when they checked the building directory, it showed that 14 was unoccupied. One night, after a particularly long study session, Marina froze at the sound of distant crying. She turned to Ainul, who had gone pale. "You hear that too?" A soft female voice wailing, long, mournful, and almost melodic. Farah, always the skeptic, said it was wind or a cat trapped in a vent. But Marina knew better. Her grandmother once told her, "If you hear a woman cry at night, it's not sadness you're hearing. It's a warning." Part 3. The Girl Who Looked Up. The urban legends about the Banshee of Block E had existed since the early 80s. Tenants claimed to hear crying in the lifts. Some reported lights flickering only when they passed the bricked-up 13th floor door in the stairwell. One cleaner even quit on the spot after swearing he saw a woman in white staring at him from behind the elevator glass, on a floor that didn't exist. But the worst story was about a girl named Siti Amalina. She was 19, a polite, introverted student who rarely spoke to neighbors. One night, during a blackout, she took the stairs up to her flat on the 14th floor. When she reached the landing between the 12th and 14th floors, she heard it. Weeping voice, soft at first, then rising into a desperate wail. Despite her fear, she looked up. The maintenance crew found her body the next morning, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a scream. There were no wounds, no sign of struggle, but her hair had turned white and blood trailed from her ears. The coroner said it was a stroke. The neighbors knew better. From then on, people whispered a rule that was passed like gospel. If you hear crying in Block E, don't respond, and never, ever look up. Part 4. Alone. When the semester break came, Farah and Marina both went home for 2 weeks. Ainul decided to stay. She had a final paper due and wanted the peace and quiet. The building emptied out. No kids running in the halls, no shouting neighbors. But the silence wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. On the third night alone, around 2:13 a.m., Ainul was jolted awake by wailing. This time, it was unmistakable. She stepped into the hallway. The sound was louder, echoing off the walls. A flickering light at the far end of the corridor revealed a figure, a woman, back turned, her hair long and uncombed, nearly sweeping the floor. Her white dress was soaked at the hem, as though she had walked through a flood. Ainul opened her mouth to call out, but stopped. The woman began to whisper, a child's voice in a woman's body. Ayah, kenapa tinggal aku? Kenapa tinggalkan aku malam tu? Father, why did you leave me? Why that night? Suddenly, the lights went out. The crying stopped. Then came a scream, so high-pitched it didn't sound human. Ainul covered her ears, stumbled back into her flat, and locked the door. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. Part 5. The Forgotten. Vile. When Farah and Marina returned, they found Ainul different. She had barely slept. Her eyes were sunken, and she flinched at the smallest sounds. That evening, Marina checked Ainul's laptop to help finish her paper. In a hidden folder labeled Only X, she found dozens of audio recordings. Ainul had been recording the corridor every night. One file stood out. Dated 3 nights ago, it was a 40-second recording. Most of it was silence. Then, the soft weeping, followed by a whisper spoken so close to the mic it felt like someone was right in the room. Ainul. That night, Farah wanted to pack up and leave, but Ainul refused. She's not finished with me yet, Ainul said. She only appears when you're alone. I need to find out what she wants. Part 6. The legend. Revealed Marina reached out to her grandmother in Ipoh, a respected Bomo spiritual healer. She shared the story, including the whisper of Ayah. Her grandmother grew silent, then said, "That is not a banshee. That is a Pontianak who has confused this world with the next. Pontianaks are vengeful spirits of women who died during childbirth. But this one wasn't just haunting. She was searching for someone for justice. When a Pontianak can't find peace, her spirit lingers, drawn to places of grief, tragedy, and abandonment. The Ayah she cried for, likely someone who had failed her, perhaps her father, or worse, the man who left her to die. Tell Ainul," the grandmother warned, "do not look at her, ever, not even in reflection." Part 7. The Elevator. Ritual. Week later, Ainul received a dream. In it, she stood in front of the sealed door to the 13th floor and heard the same voice, but this time it said, Come see, come see what they did. Anal awoke, and to her horror, the elevator button was lit. For the 13th floor. It shouldn't be possible. The next day, she returned to the elevator at 2 a.m. with a camera, Farah's voice recorder, and Marina on a call. She pressed 13. The doors opened to a half-lit corridor, dusty, abandoned, like it hadn't been touched in decades. Then she heard the sobbing again. Following it, she reached a door at the far end. It was ajar. Inside, she found an old nursery, mold-covered toys, a broken crib, and a rotted photo album. Inside the album, a page with a single name, Sophia Binti Rahman. Died, 1974. Cause, unknown. Anal turned, and the woman was behind her. This time, Anal saw her full face. Her skin was pale gray, her mouth wide and cracked from screaming, and her eyes empty but filled with pain. She let out one final deafening wail. The camera shattered in Anal's hand. Part 8. Aftermath. Security found Anal unconscious at 4 a.m. in the hallway, cradling the photo album. Her hair had turned stark white at the roots. She never spoke again. Marina and Farah moved out the next day. Marina handed the album to her grandmother, who burned it and performed rites to release Sophia's spirit. Block E's 13th floor was resealed, but legends say the banshee wail still haunts Wangsa Maju, especially during stormy, humid nights. Those who hear it say, it's not a threat, it's a reminder that grief lingers, that the dead remember, and most of all, if you hear crying,